Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, opening your trading platform, taking one clean trade, following your plan without hesitation, and closing your laptop with complete peace of mind. No anxiety, no revenge trading, no emotional roller coaster, no desperate need to make back yesterday's losses. Just confidence, just clarity, just consistency. Sounds impossible? For most traders it does. Because what you're about to hear isn't the story that gets millions of views on social media. Nobody wants to tell you that the biggest reason you keep losing money isn't because your indicators are wrong. It isn't because your entries are late. It isn't because someone is hiding a secret strategy from you. The uncomfortable truth is that the market has already shown you exactly who you are. It has exposed your fear. It has exposed your ego. Every losing trade has been less about the market and more about your mind. Think about it. Have you ever promised yourself, this time I'll stick to my plan, only to break every single rule within minutes? Have you ever watched one green candle and felt the fear of missing out? Have you ever doubled your position because you couldn't accept being wrong? Have you ever stayed awake at night replaying the trade in your head, saying, if only I had waited, if only I had exited earlier, if only I had controlled myself? That's not bad luck, that's psychology. And here's what nobody explains. Every consistently profitable trader you admire has walked through the exact same mental battlefield. They weren't born disciplined. They weren't born patient. They weren't born fearless. They earned those qualities by surviving a series of psychological transformations that every trader must experience. Some people recognize those stages and grow stronger. Others stay trapped in one stage for years, blaming brokers, blaming algorithms, blaming the economy, blaming everything except the person staring back at them in the mirror. And that's why they never become consistently profitable. Let me tell you something that might change the way you look at trading forever. The market doesn't pay you because you're smart. It doesn't reward you because you work harder than everyone else. It doesn't care how many books you've read or how many indicators you've installed. The market pays one thing and one thing only: emotional control. If you cannot control yourself, the market will control you every single time. This is why two traders can use the exact same strategy, enter the exact same trade, and end up with completely different results. One follows the plan, the other follows emotions. One builds wealth, the other builds regret. This is not about finding a better setup. This is about becoming a better person under pressure. And that's exactly what this video is about. Today, you're going to discover the 7 psychological stages that every trader must pass before reaching consistent profitability. You'll understand why beginners become overconfident, why most traders get stuck chasing the perfect strategy, why discipline feels impossible in the beginning, and how elite traders eventually reach a point where following their rules becomes automatic. More importantly, you'll discover where you are right now on this journey, why you may feel stuck, and exactly what mindset shift is required to move to the next level. By the end of this video, you'll no longer see trading as a battle against the market. You'll see it for what it has always been, a battle against yourself. Because understand this is not about charts. This is not about winning one trade. This is about changing the person who places the trade, and once that person changes, everything changes. Stage 1, the illusion of fast and easy profits. It usually starts with one winning trade, just one. You deposit a small amount of money, click the buy or sell button almost at random, and somehow the market moves in your favor. Within minutes, you've made money, more money than you expected. Your heart races, your confidence explodes. Suddenly, trading doesn't seem difficult anymore. In fact, it feels easy. You begin to think you've discovered something special. Maybe you have natural talent. Maybe you're smarter than everyone else. Maybe you finally found the shortcut to financial freedom. This is where the first psychological stage begins, and it's also where countless trading careers quietly begin to fall apart. Because success without understanding is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a new trader. That early win doesn't teach you discipline. It teaches you overconfidence. It doesn't teach you patience. It teaches you that fast money is normal. And before you even realize it, your expectations become completely disconnected from reality. You stop seeing trading as a professional skill. You start seeing it as an ATM. Every chart looks like an opportunity. Every candle looks like easy money. Every trade feels like it has to be a winner. You aren't managing risk anymore. You're chasing excitement, and excitement feels addictive. You begin checking the charts every few minutes. You think about trading while you're eating, while you're driving, while you're supposed to be working. Your mind becomes obsessed with the next trade because you believe the next big win is always just one click away. Then something even more dangerous happens. You increase your position size. After all, if you made $100 yesterday, why not make $1,000 today? If one trade worked, then a bigger trade should work even better. That's what your emotions tell you. But the market doesn't reward emotion. It punishes it. Understand this. The market has a way of letting your confidence grow just enough before testing whether it's real or imagined. And most beginners fail that test. They mistake luck for skill. They mistake randomness for consistency. They mistake confidence for competence. Let me tell you something. Confidence without experience is fragile. It disappears the moment the market refuses to cooperate. Yet during this stage, you don't know that. You think every loss is temporary. You believe you can recover instantly. You convince yourself that bigger trades will erase smaller mistakes. You stop respecting risk because you've never truly felt the pain of a devastating loss. Your ego quietly takes control. It whispers, "You're different. You're going to succeed faster than everyone else." That voice feels encouraging, but it's setting a trap. Because the moment you believe you're smarter than the market, you've already lost the battle that matters most. The market doesn't care about your confidence. It doesn't care about your dreams, your financial goals, or how badly you want to quit your job. It only responds to probabilities, discipline, and execution. But beginners rarely understand that. They measure success by how much money they made today, instead of how well they followed their process. They celebrate profitable mistakes and ignore disciplined losses. They don't realize that a bad trade can still make money and a good trade can still lose. That's the psychological illusion. You start believing that profits validate every decision you make. They don't. Sometimes the market rewards bad behavior, and that's exactly what makes bad habits so difficult to break. Every lucky win strengthens the wrong beliefs. Every emotional trade that happens to work convinces you that rules aren't necessary. Why wait for confirmation when you can jump in early? Why use stop losses when the market always comes back? Why risk only 1% when you could double your account in a week? Those questions sound logical during stage one because your emotions are louder than your experience. And here's the frightening part. Social media makes this illusion even stronger. You scroll through endless screenshots of massive gains. You watch traders claiming they turned a few $100s into a fortune overnight. Nobody shows you the blown accounts. Nobody posts the sleepless nights, the panic, the regret, or the months spent trying to recover from one reckless decision. You only see the highlight reel, and your expectations become even more unrealistic. You start comparing your journey to someone else's edited success story. You begin feeling impatient. You want results now, not next year, not after thousands of hours of practice. Right now. And impatience becomes the fuel behind every poor decision you make. You force trades that aren't there. You ignore your own instincts. You chase candles that have already moved. You refuse to accept small losses because your mind is still chasing the fantasy of effortless wealth. But here's the truth that every consistently profitable trader eventually learns. Stage one isn't about making money. It's about exposing your relationship with money. It reveals whether you're driven by greed or by growth. It reveals whether you're seeking excitement or mastery. It reveals whether you're willing to learn or simply hoping to get lucky forever. Every trader begins with dreams of easy money. There's nothing wrong with that. The mistake is staying there, because sooner or later, the market delivers a lesson that no book, no mentor, and no YouTube video can teach. A lesson so powerful that it changes the way you see trading forever. And that lesson marks the beginning of the next psychological stage. Stage two. The reality check. Then it happens. The trade that was supposed to bounce keeps falling. The position you were so confident about refuses to reverse. The stop loss you moved just this one time turns into an even bigger loss. Your account, which looked so promising a few weeks ago, suddenly starts shrinking faster than you ever imagined. At first, you tell yourself it's just a bad day. Then it becomes a bad week. Then a bad month. The excitement that once made you rush to your computer every morning slowly turns into anxiety. You still open your charts, but now your stomach feels heavy. You hesitate before entering trades. You question every decision. The confidence that once made you believe trading was easy begins to disappear, replaced by something much more uncomfortable: doubt. This is the reality check. This is the stage where the market stops feeding your ego and starts testing your character. It is painful. It is frustrating. And it is absolutely necessary, because until this moment, you believe the market existed to reward you. Now you begin to understand that the market exists to expose you. It exposes your impatience. It exposes your lack of preparation. It exposes every emotional weakness you've been trying to ignore. Suddenly, every mistake becomes impossible to hide. You realize you entered trades because you were bored. You realize you ignored your own rules because you wanted action. You realize you chased price because you were afraid of missing out. You realize you held losing positions because your ego couldn't accept being wrong. One by one, the excuses begin to disappear. But here's what most traders do next. They refuse to accept what the market is trying to teach them. Instead of looking inward, they look outward. They blame the broker, they blame market manipulation, they blame news events, they blame high-frequency trading, they blame social media gurus, they blame everything except the one variable they actually control, themselves. Understand this. Blame feels comforting because it protects your ego. Responsibility feels painful because it demands change. And most people choose comfort over growth. Let me tell you something. Every professional trader has experienced this stage. Every one of them has stared at an account balance that didn't reflect the effort they invested. Every one of them has questioned whether they were even capable of succeeding. The difference is not that professionals avoided failure. The difference is that they allowed failure to educate them instead of define them. During this stage, your emotions become louder than ever. Fear begins whispering before every trade. What if this loses too? Greed still shows up after every winner. Maybe double the position this time. Hope convinces you to hold losers longer than you should. Regret keeps replaying trades that are already over. Your mind becomes a battlefield. Every decision feels heavier than it should. Every candle seems personal. You stop trusting yourself because your recent experiences have damaged your confidence. But confidence isn't what you're actually missing. Clarity is. Confidence built on winning is temporary. Clarity built on understanding lasts forever. That's why this stage feels so confusing. You're trying to recover emotionally instead of improving professionally. You search YouTube for another strategy. You download another indicator. You join another course. You convince yourself that somewhere out there is a magical system that never loses. And every time you find something new, hope returns for a few days. You think, this is it. This is the strategy that finally changes everything. Then it loses. And the cycle begins again. Excitement, hope, loss, frustration, repeat. Excitement, hope, loss, frustration, repeat. Months pass, sometimes years, yet your results barely change because you're solving the wrong problem. You think your strategy is broken, when in reality your decision-making process is broken. The market isn't asking for a smarter trader. It's asking for a more disciplined one. That's a completely different challenge. This stage also introduces another painful emotion, comparison. You look at other traders posting winning trades online and wonder why they seem to succeed while you continue struggling. You begin questioning your intelligence. You begin questioning your future. Maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe everyone else understands something you don't. But what you don't see is that many of those people are only showing you their victories. They aren't showing you the mistakes, the losses, the emotional breakdowns, or the blown accounts that came before those screenshots. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's highlight reel. And that's a comparison you'll lose every single time. Then comes the moment every trader remembers forever. You experience a loss that hurts far more than your wallet. It damages your identity. It makes you question who you are. You realize you haven't just lost money, you've lost trust in yourself. And strangely enough, that painful realization becomes the first honest conversation you've had with yourself since you started trading. Because now the illusion is gone. The fantasy of effortless money has disappeared. The excitement has faded. What's left is reality. Raw, uncomfortable, honest reality. This is where many people quit. They decide trading isn't for them. They walk away believing the market defeated them. But for the traders who stay, something extraordinary begins to happen. Instead of asking, how do I make more money? They begin asking a much more powerful question. Why do I keep making the same mistakes? That single question changes everything. Because from that moment forward, the focus slowly shifts away from chasing profits and toward understanding behavior. The battle is no longer against the market. The battle is against habits, against emotions, against the version of yourself that keeps repeating the same costly decisions. And once that realization takes hold, you begin the longest, most frustrating, and most transformative stage of every trader's journey, the endless hunt for the perfect strategy. Stage 3, the endless hunt for the perfect strategy. Now the obsession changes. You no longer believe trading is easy, but you still believe the answer is somewhere outside of you. Instead of chasing quick money, you begin chasing the perfect strategy. Every week you're convinced you finally found it. One day it's price action, the next day it's smart money concepts, then it's supply and demand, then volume profile, then Elliott wave, then order flow, then ICT, then another indicator, then another expensive course. Your computer fills with screenshots, your notebook fills with rules, your browser fills with bookmarks. Yet your trading account tells the same story it always has. You keep searching because every new strategy comes wrapped in hope. Hope that this one won't lose. Hope that this one will finally remove uncertainty. Hope that this one will make every decision easy. But understand this, you aren't actually searching for a strategy, you're searching for certainty. And certainty does not exist in trading. That's the lesson stage 3 is desperately trying to teach you. Every strategy has losing trades. Every edge experiences drawdowns. Every professional trader goes through periods where nothing seems to work. But you don't know that yet. So every time your new strategy produces 3 or 4 losses in a row, you immediately abandon it. You assume it's broken. You tell yourself this isn't the one. Then the search begins all over again. Months become years. You become incredibly knowledgeable but surprisingly unprofitable. You can explain dozens of trading concepts. You can recognize complex chart patterns, more technical terms than most beginners. But when it's time to execute a real trade with real money, everything falls apart. Why? Because information is not transformation. Knowledge does not automatically create discipline. You can memorize every trading book ever written and still panic when a position moves against you. Let me tell you something. The market doesn't reward the trader who knows the most. It rewards the trader who consistently applies what they already know. That's a completely different skill. During this stage, your confidence rises and falls with every new discovery. You watch a successful trader online and think, that's exactly how I need to trade. You spend hours studying their methods. For a week or two, everything feels exciting again. Then reality returns. The strategy loses. You become frustrated. You convince yourself you misunderstood something. Instead of mastering one approach, you jump to another. You become a collector instead of a practitioner. You collect indicators. You collect strategies. You collect opinions. But you never collect enough experience with a single method to truly understand it. This is called strategy hopping, and it's one of the biggest traps in a trader's journey. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. After 3 days, you dig it up because it hasn't become a tree. Then you plant another seed somewhere else. 3 days later, you dig that one up too. Year after year, you keep planting new seeds, but never allow any of them enough time to grow. That's exactly what strategy hopping looks like. You mistake patience for failure. You mistake temporary losses for permanent weakness. You never give your edge enough time to prove itself. Then something even more dangerous happens. You start mixing strategies together. You take an entry from one mentor, an exit from another, a risk management rule from someone else, and an indicator from a fourth person. Eventually, your trading system becomes so complicated that even you don't fully understand it. Every trade becomes confusing. Every decision feels uncertain. And when uncertainty increases, emotions take over. You hesitate when you should enter. You enter when you should wait. You close winners too early because you're afraid they'll reverse. You hold losers too long because another indicator says the trend is still intact. Instead of simplifying your process, you've made it impossible to execute consistently. The irony is painful. You wanted certainty, but you've created even more confusion. During this stage, you also begin believing that profitable traders possess some hidden secret. You think they're keeping the real strategy to themselves. You imagine there's an exclusive indicator or algorithm that guarantees success. That belief keeps you trapped because you're always looking for what you don't have instead of improving what you already do. Here's the truth most professionals eventually discover. The edge is rarely secret. The execution is. Two traders can use the exact same setup. One makes money consistently while the other loses repeatedly. Why? Because one follows the plan regardless of emotion, while the other changes the rules every time fear or greed enters the picture. The strategy didn't fail. The execution did. Understand this. The human brain hates uncertainty. It desperately wants guarantees. It wants to know every trade will win before taking the risk. But trading never offers that promise. Every position is simply a probability, nothing more, nothing less. The moment you demand certainty from an uncertain business, frustration becomes inevitable. And that's exactly where most traders remain stuck. They continue looking outward instead of inward. They continue asking which strategy works best, instead of asking, can I consistently follow one strategy long enough to discover its true edge? Those are two completely different questions. One is driven by fear. The other is driven by maturity. Then one day, after countless strategy changes, endless late-night chart sessions, expensive courses, and emotional exhaustion, something inside you begins to shift. You're tired, not just physically, but mentally. You're tired of chasing shortcuts. You're tired of starting over. You're tired of believing the next strategy will magically solve problems created by your own behavior. For the first time, you stop asking whether the strategy is good enough. Instead, you begin asking whether you are disciplined enough. And in that quiet moment of honesty, something remarkable happens. The search for perfection finally slows down, and the search for self-awareness begins. That single shift marks the doorway into the stage where real transformation starts. Not on the charts, but in the mirror. Stage 4, the moment of self-reflection. There comes a day when something inside you quietly breaks. Not your account, not your strategy, your illusion. You sit in front of your charts after another frustrating trading session, and for the first time you stop looking for someone else to blame. You don't search for another indicator. You don't open another YouTube video promising a 90% win rate. You don't tell yourself the market was manipulated. Instead, you ask a question that feels uncomfortable because it points directly at you. What if the biggest problem isn't my strategy? What if it's me? That question changes everything. It doesn't happen because someone tells you to think differently. It happens because you're exhausted. Exhausted from repeating the same mistakes. Exhausted from starting over. Exhausted from believing that success is always one new strategy away. This stage isn't exciting. There are no huge winning streaks. There are no dramatic account recoveries. There is only honesty. Raw, uncomfortable honesty. And honesty is where real transformation begins. For the first time, you start reviewing your trades without trying to defend yourself. You notice that your biggest losses didn't come from bad market conditions. They came from breaking your own rules. You realize the trades that hurt the most were the ones you never should have taken. You see that the problem wasn't your entry. The problem was your impatience. The problem was your greed. The problem wasn't volatility. The problem was your inability to accept uncertainty. One by one, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. You begin reading your trading journal, and suddenly patterns appear that were always there but hidden behind excuses. Every revenge trade came after an emotional loss. Every oversized position came after a winning streak that made you feel invincible. Every impulsive entry happened because you feared missing out. Every devastating drawdown started with one small rule you convinced yourself was okay to break, just this once. Let me tell you something. Successful traders don't become profitable because they stop making mistakes. They become profitable because they stop lying to themselves about why those mistakes happen. That's a powerful difference. During this stage, your attention slowly shifts away from predicting the market and toward understanding your own behavior. You start asking better questions. Why do I hesitate on my best setups? Why do I become overconfident after a few wins? Why do I ignore my stop loss when I know better? Why do I feel the need to trade every single day? Those questions don't have quick answers. They require observation. They require patience. Most importantly, they require humility. Humility is something the market eventually teaches everyone, but only a few people are willing to learn it. Your ego begins losing its grip. You no longer need to prove you're right on every trade. You begin accepting that being wrong is simply part of the business. At first, that feels strange. For so long, every losing trade felt like a personal failure. Now you're beginning to separate your identity from your results. A losing trade doesn't make you a bad trader. A winning trade doesn't automatically make you a great one. Your value is no longer tied to the outcome of a single position. It's tied to whether you executed your process correctly. That's a massive psychological shift. Understand this. The market never promised you certainty. It only offers probabilities. Once you truly accept that, something remarkable happens. Your emotional reactions begin to soften. You stop celebrating every win like you're a genius. You stop treating every loss like you're a failure. You become calmer, more objective, more patient. Instead of chasing excitement, you begin chasing consistency. That single change separates developing traders from gamblers. You also discover something surprising. Many of your biggest struggles have very little to do with trading itself. They reflect habits you've carried into other parts of your life. Maybe you avoid discomfort. Maybe you seek instant gratification. Maybe you struggle with discipline. Maybe you constantly need validation. Trading simply magnified those tendencies because money amplifies emotion. The market became a mirror. It reflected back every weakness you had been avoiding. At first, that's painful to admit. But eventually it becomes empowering because now you know where real improvement needs to happen. The battlefield isn't on the chart, it's in your daily habits, your emotional control, and your decision-making process. This is where journaling becomes more than recording trades. It becomes a conversation with yourself. You don't just write down entries and exits anymore. You write down what you felt before entering. You write down why you ignored your plan. You write down what fear sounded like inside your head. You begin studying your own psychology with the same intensity you once studied candlestick patterns. And slowly, almost without noticing, you become less reactive. You start recognizing emotional triggers before they take control. You catch yourself wanting to revenge trade and choose not to. You notice the urge to increase your position size after a big winner and decide to stay disciplined instead. The impulses don't disappear overnight. But for the first time, you stop automatically obeying them. You create space between emotion and action, and inside that space, discipline begins to grow. That's the real breakthrough. Not bigger profits, better decisions. Better decisions create better habits. Better habits create better execution. Better execution eventually creates better results. But the order matters. Most traders want profits first and discipline later. Professionals understand it's exactly the opposite. They build discipline first and allow profits to become the natural consequence. This stage is where your relationship with trading changes forever. You're no longer trying to conquer the market. You're trying to master yourself. You stop searching for shortcuts because you've realized there aren't any. You stop asking how quickly you can make money and start asking how consistently you can make good decisions. That question becomes the foundation of everything that follows. Because once you've accepted that your greatest edge isn't hidden in an indicator, but in your own behavior, you're finally ready to build something that lasts. You're ready to stop trading based on emotions and start trading based on principles. And that is the moment you enter the stage where a true professional mindset begins to take shape. Stage 5. Building a rule-based trading mindset. Something feels different now. You still care about making money, but it is no longer the only thing on your mind. For the first time since you started trading, you begin to understand that your greatest asset isn't your strategy. It isn't your indicator. It isn't even your ability to read the market. Your greatest asset is your ability to follow rules when your emotions are screaming at you to break them. This is where your transformation truly begins. Not because the market has changed, but because you stop looking at trading as a game of predictions and start treating it like a business built on processes. Businesses don't survive because every decision is perfect. They survive because they have systems that produce consistent results over time. You realize trading is no different. Every successful business has rules. Every successful athlete has routines. Every successful pilot has checklists. Every successful surgeon follows procedures. So why should a trader expect consistent results without a clear framework? That question becomes the foundation of your new mindset. Instead of waking up and asking, how much money can I make today? You begin asking, can I execute my plan flawlessly today? That simple shift changes everything. Because once execution becomes your goal instead of profit, pressure begins to disappear. You no longer need every trade to win. You only need every trade to follow your rules. Understand this. Rules exist to protect you from the version of yourself that only appears under pressure. The calm version of you already knows what to do. The emotional version forgets everything. That's why rules matter. They make good decisions automatic when emotions become unreliable. You begin creating a trading plan that is simple enough to follow and strict enough to protect you. You define exactly what your setup looks like. You define exactly how much you're willing to risk. You define where you enter, where you exit, and when you walk away. At first, those rules feel restrictive. They feel like they're limiting your opportunities. But over time, you discover something unexpected. Rules don't reduce your freedom, they create it. Because when every decision is already made before the market opens, fear has fewer opportunities to interfere. Let me tell you something. Every emotional decision you've ever regretted happened because you gave yourself permission to negotiate with your own rules. You moved the stop loss because this trade looks different. You entered early because it's probably going to run. You doubled your position because I'm sure this one will work. Every one of those decisions felt reasonable in the moment. That's the dangerous part. Emotions rarely announce themselves as emotions. They disguise themselves as logic. They sound convincing. They sound intelligent, but they are simply fear and greed wearing a different mask. A rule-based mindset removes that conversation entirely. The answer is already written before the trade begins. No negotiation, no exceptions, no emotional debate. During this stage, you also begin respecting risk in a way you never did before. In the past, risk felt like an obstacle standing between you and bigger profits. Now you understand that risk management is the reason bigger profits become possible in the first place. You finally accept the truth that once seemed impossible. Protecting your capital is more important than growing it. Because without capital, there is no next trade. Without emotional stability, there is no consistent execution. Every professional trader understands this. Amateurs focus on how much they can make. Professionals focus on how much they can afford to lose while staying in the game. That's why they survive. Survival isn't exciting. It doesn't create viral social media posts. It doesn't produce overnight success stories. But survival creates longevity. And longevity creates consistency. You begin celebrating different victories now. A perfectly executed losing trade feels more satisfying than an emotional winning trade. Think about that for a moment. A loss actually feels like progress because you followed your plan. That's a level of maturity most traders never reach. You stop measuring yourself by dollars and start measuring yourself by discipline. Every day you obey your rules becomes a successful day, regardless of your profit or loss. That shift removes an enormous amount of emotional pressure. You're no longer fighting the market. You're simply executing your edge one trade at a time, one decision at a time, one day at a time. Your trading journal changes too. Instead of recording only financial results, you begin grading yourself on execution. Did I follow every rule? Did I respect my risk? Did I avoid impulsive trades? Did I remain patient? Those questions become more important than the amount of money you made. Because you finally understand something that once seemed impossible. Money follows behavior. Behavior does not follow money. Improve the behavior consistently enough, and the results eventually catch up. Ignore the behavior, and no strategy in the world can save you. There will still be difficult days. There will still be losing streaks. The difference is that you no longer panic when they arrive. Losses no longer destroy your confidence because your confidence isn't built on outcomes anymore. It's built on preparation. It's built on discipline. It's built on the knowledge that you can trust yourself to follow your process regardless of what the market does. That's real confidence, not the loud confidence of stage one that came from lucky wins. Quiet confidence, professional confidence, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. You become more patient because you understand that no single trade defines your future. You stop forcing opportunities because you know another setup will eventually come. You stop staring at the charts all day because you no longer believe constant action equals constant progress. Sometimes the best trade is no trade at all, and for the first time you genuinely believe that. This stage isn't glamorous. It's repetitive. It feels almost boring compared to the emotional chaos you experienced before. But that's exactly the point. Professional trading isn't exciting. Consistent trading isn't dramatic. It's routine, it's disciplined, it's methodical. It's the same high-quality decisions repeated over and over again until they become part of who you are. And without realizing it, those repeated decisions begin changing your identity. You're no longer pretending to think like a professional trader. You're becoming one. The rules that once required constant effort now feel increasingly natural. The emotional battles become quieter. The internal conflict begins fading. And that steady transformation prepares you for the stage where discipline is no longer something you force yourself to do. It becomes the way you naturally operate every single day. Stage 6, mastering discipline through consistency. This is the stage most traders dream about, but very few ever reach. Not because it's impossible, but because it isn't exciting enough for people who are addicted to constant action. By now, you no longer wake up searching for a miracle trade. You no longer believe that one big winner will solve all your problems. Something much more valuable has replaced that way of thinking. Patience. Real patience. The kind that isn't forced. The kind that comes from experience. The kind that understands that doing nothing is often the highest quality decision you can make. You begin noticing something strange. The less desperate you become to make money, the better your decisions become. The better your decisions become, the more consistent your results become, and the more consistent your results become, the less emotional your trading feels. It's a cycle, but this time it's moving in the right direction. You're no longer riding an emotional roller coaster. You're building momentum through repetition, through discipline, through consistency. Understand this. Consistency is not built by extraordinary days. It's built by ordinary days repeated without compromise. That's why this stage feels almost boring compared to where you started. There are no emotional highs after every winner. There are no emotional crashes after every loser. You simply execute, you review, you improve. Then you repeat the process again and again and again. That repetition is exactly what rewires your mind. Every time you follow your plan, despite fear, discipline grows stronger. Every time you accept a loss without revenge trading, emotional control becomes easier. Every time you skip a low-quality setup, patience becomes part of your identity. You're no longer trying to act disciplined. You are becoming a disciplined person. That's the difference. Let me tell you something. Habits always outperform motivation. Motivation disappears the moment things become difficult. Habits continue because they no longer depend on emotion. They depend on identity. During this stage, your identity changes completely. You stop saying, "I'm trying to become a disciplined trader." Instead, you quietly become the kind of person who naturally protects capital, naturally follows rules, and naturally respects risk. Your behavior begins matching your intentions. That alignment creates confidence unlike anything you've experienced before. Not loud confidence, not arrogant confidence, quiet confidence, stable confidence. The confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself day after day. You trust yourself because you've earned that trust. Think about how different this feels compared to the beginning of your journey. Back then, every chart pulled your attention. Every price movement demanded a reaction. Every opportunity felt urgent. Now, urgency has disappeared. You understand that opportunities are endless, but your capital is limited. You protect the limited resource instead of chasing the unlimited. That single realization changes your entire relationship with the market. You stop measuring your success by the number of trades you take. Sometimes your best trading day ends without placing a single order. And instead of feeling guilty or impatient, you feel proud because you respected your standards. That is psychological growth. You also become remarkably comfortable with uncertainty. Earlier in your journey, uncertainty made you anxious. You wanted guarantees before entering a trade. You wanted proof that you would win. Now you understand something professionals have known all along. The goal isn't to eliminate uncertainty. The goal is to perform well despite uncertainty. Every trade is simply one event in a long series of events. One outcome means very little. 100 disciplined trades tell the real story. That perspective frees you from emotional attachment to individual results. You no longer stare at every candle once you're in a trade. You no longer panic every time price moves against you. You trust your process because you've seen it work over time. And when it doesn't work, you still trust it because you understand probabilities instead of perfection. During this stage, losing streaks no longer destroy your mindset. They become data. Winning streaks no longer inflate your ego. They become confirmation that your process is working. Your emotional responses become smaller, while your consistency becomes stronger. That's a remarkable trade. Smaller emotions, better execution, better outcomes. Another surprising change begins happening outside of trading. The discipline you've built starts showing up in other areas of your life. You become more patient with people, more organized with your time, more intentional with your decisions. You stop chasing instant gratification in general because you've trained yourself to think long term. Trading didn't just improve your financial habits. It improved your character. That's why so many successful traders eventually realize that the biggest reward wasn't the money. It was the person they became while learning how to earn it. Every difficult lesson, every painful loss, every emotional mistake contributed to building a stronger version of you. You now understand that discipline isn't punishment. Discipline is freedom. It frees you from impulsive decisions. It frees you from emotional chaos. It frees you from constantly second-guessing yourself. Most importantly, it frees you from the exhausting cycle of self-sabotage that once controlled every trading session. The market hasn't become easier. You have become stronger. That's an important distinction. The charts still move unpredictably. News still creates volatility. Losses still happen. But your response has changed. And once your response changes, your results inevitably begin changing too. You begin appreciating slow progress because you've learned that lasting success is almost always gradual. Small improvements repeated consistently become extraordinary over time. 1% better decisions every day eventually create a completely different trader. You no longer search for breakthroughs. You build them through routine, through preparation, through relentless consistency. Every morning starts the same way. Every trade follows the same process. Every review looks for the same opportunities to improve. That structure becomes comforting rather than restrictive. It gives your mind stability in an environment filled with uncertainty. Eventually, something incredible happens. The mental effort required to stay disciplined starts fading away. Following your rules no longer feels like a battle. Protecting your capital no longer feels difficult. Patience no longer feels forced. These behaviors become automatic because you've repeated them enough times to reshape your identity. And that is the doorway to the final psychological stage, where trading stops feeling like something you have to consciously manage and begins feeling as natural as breathing itself. Stage 7. Trading becomes second nature. One day, something happens that you never expected. You finish a trading session, close your charts, and realize you hardly felt any emotional pressure at all. You followed your plan, you accepted your outcomes, you reviewed your execution. Then you simply moved on with your day. No obsession, no anxiety, no constant checking of your phone to see if prices moved another few points, no emotional attachment to whether the last trade was a winner or loser. It almost feels strange because you remember the person you used to be, the person who couldn't sleep after a losing day, the person who celebrated every winning trade as if life had changed forever, the person who believed every single position would determine their future. That person still exists in your memory, but no longer controls your decisions. You've changed. Not overnight. Not through one strategy. Not through one lucky trade. You changed through thousands of disciplined decisions repeated until they became automatic. This is the final psychological stage. The stage where trading stops feeling like an emotional battle and starts feeling like a professional routine. The market hasn't become easier. The uncertainty hasn't disappeared. Losses still happen. Winning streaks still happen. Economic news still creates volatility. None of that has changed. What has changed is your relationship with those events. You no longer react to every movement. You respond according to your plan. And there is an enormous difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is emotional. Responding is intentional. Earlier in your journey, your emotions decided your trades. Now your process does. Earlier, every trade felt personal. Now every trade is simply another sample in a long series of probabilities. That perspective is incredibly powerful because it removes the emotional weight from individual outcomes. Let me tell you something. The greatest sign of mastery isn't making money. It's remaining emotionally stable whether you make money or lose money today. That stability cannot be bought. It cannot be downloaded. It cannot be copied from another trader. It is earned through years of honest work on yourself. During this stage, you begin noticing that your attention has shifted away from outcomes almost completely. You become fascinated by quality instead of quantity. A week with only 2 perfect trades feels far more satisfying than a week with 20 emotional ones. You no longer need action to feel productive. You understand that patience is productive. Waiting is productive. Protecting capital is productive. Everything you once considered boring has become your competitive advantage. While others are desperately forcing trades, you're calmly waiting for your edge. While others are trying to predict every market move, you're simply preparing to execute when conditions align with your plan. That patience creates consistency, and consistency creates confidence that no losing streak can easily shake. Understand this. Confidence at this level is completely different from the confidence you experience in stage 1. Back then, your confidence depends on preparation. Back then, you believed you had to be right. Now you know you only need to be disciplined. Back then, your ego wanted to prove itself. Now your ego has become remarkably quiet. That's one of the biggest transformations of all. You stop trying to impress anyone. You don't care whether people think you're a great trader. You don't need to post screenshots of winning trades. You don't chase validation on social media. Your results speak privately through your consistency, not publicly through your emotions. The market becomes less exciting, but your life becomes more peaceful. And that's a trade every professional gladly accepts. You also realize that learning never ends. Even after reaching consistency, you continue reviewing your trades. You continue refining your execution. You continue studying your own psychology because you understand that complacency is another form of risk. Discipline isn't something you achieve once. It's something you practice continuously. But now that practice feels natural rather than exhausting. It's simply part of who you are. Think about the incredible distance you've traveled. You began believing trading was about finding the perfect strategy. You now understand it's about becoming the right person. You once chased excitement. You now value stability. You once feared losses. You now accept them as operating expenses in a probability-based business. You once believed discipline was a limitation. You now recognize it as the foundation of freedom. That transformation is far more valuable than any trading system you'll ever own. Because strategies change, markets evolve, volatility shifts, but a disciplined mind adapts. A disciplined trader survives. A disciplined trader continues growing regardless of market conditions. That's the real edge. Not an indicator, not an algorithm, not a secret pattern. You, the version of you that has learned patience, the version of you that no longer allows fear or greed to control decisions. The version of you that understands success isn't built through dramatic moments, but through ordinary habits repeated with extraordinary consistency. This stage also brings an unexpected gift, gratitude. You become grateful for the painful stages that once frustrated you. Without the losses, you would never have learned humility. Without the frustration, you would never have discovered discipline. Without the endless search for shortcuts, you would never have understood that there are none. Every setback that once felt like failure was actually shaping the trader you needed to become. Looking back, you realize the market was never trying to stop you. It was trying to prepare you. Every difficult lesson was building emotional strength. Every mistake was exposing an area that needed improvement. Every setback carried a message. And once you finally listened, everything began changing. That's why consistently profitable traders often appear calm, almost ordinary. They aren't constantly searching for excitement because they've already won the battle that matters most, the battle inside their own minds. And that's the greatest realization of all. Becoming consistently profitable was never just about mastering charts. It was about mastering yourself. The profits were simply the visible result of an invisible transformation that took place long before anyone else could see it. When you reach this stage, trading no longer feels like something you do. It becomes part of who you are. And once that happens, you've crossed the line that separates people who occasionally make money from those who have truly become professional traders. Moving forward, how to accelerate your growth as a trader. Now that you've seen the 7 psychological stages, you might be asking yourself one question. How do I get there faster? It's a fair question. After all, if every trader must go through these stages, why spend 10 years making mistakes that could have been understood in 2? Here's the answer. You cannot skip the lessons, but you can shorten the time it takes to learn them. That is the difference. The market will always charge tuition. The only choice you have is whether you pay with awareness or with unnecessary losses. Most traders delay their own progress because they keep repeating the same emotional mistakes without stopping to understand why they happened. They believe time alone creates experience. It doesn't. Reflection creates experience. You can trade every day for 5 years and still remain trapped in stage 3 if you never examine your behavior honestly. On the other hand, a trader who reviews every decision with complete honesty can improve dramatically in a much shorter period. Understand this. Experience is not measured by the number of trades you've taken, it's measured by the number of lessons you've actually learned. Let me tell you something. The fastest growing traders are not the smartest. They are the most coachable. They are willing to admit when they're wrong. They don't defend bad decisions. They don't protect their ego. They protect their future. Every losing trade becomes valuable because it contains information. Instead of asking, how much money did I lose? They ask, what did this trade reveal about me? That question transforms failure into education. It transforms pain into progress. It transforms setbacks into stepping stones. If you truly want to accelerate your growth, stop chasing more information and start improving your implementation. Most traders already know far more than they consistently apply. They know they should use stop losses. They know they should manage risk. They know they should wait for quality setups. They know they shouldn't revenge trade. Knowledge isn't the missing ingredient. Consistent execution is. That's why every day you spend improving your habits is more valuable than another week searching for a new indicator. Remember the pattern you've seen throughout every stage. The biggest breakthroughs never happened because the market changed. They happened because your mindset changed. Your first transformation came when you stopped believing trading was easy money. Your next transformation came when you stopped blaming the market. Then you stopped chasing perfect strategies. Then you started studying yourself. Then you built rules. Then you built discipline. Finally, discipline became your identity. Every stage required letting go of an old belief before adopting a better one. Growth has always been psychological before it became financial. Another way to accelerate your journey is by embracing boredom. That may sound strange, but it's one of the greatest secrets professional traders understand. Excitement usually leads to impulsive decisions. Boredom often means you're following your process. If your trading feels dramatic every day, something is probably wrong. Professional trading is repetitive, it is methodical, it is predictable. The excitement comes from seeing your account grow over months and years, not from emotional highs during a single afternoon. Learn to love the routine, learn to love preparation, learn to love patience. Those qualities compound just like money does. You should also stop comparing your timeline to someone else's. Some traders become consistent in 3 years. Others need 7. Some struggle with fear. Others struggle with greed. Some master risk quickly, but battle impatience for years. Everyone has a different psychological challenge because everyone enters the market with a different personality. Your goal is not to beat someone else's timeline. Your goal is to become a better trader than you were yesterday. That's the only comparison that truly matters. Every small improvement counts. Every emotional reaction you control is progress. Every bad trade you avoid is progress. Every time you follow your rules despite discomfort, you're becoming the person who can eventually handle larger capital with the same calm discipline. Never underestimate the power of small improvements repeated consistently. A 1% improvement in your decision-making each week may feel insignificant, but over time it creates a completely different trader. The market rewards those small improvements because consistency compounds, just like interest compound, just like confidence compounds. There will still be setbacks, there will still be frustrating weeks. Even experienced traders experience drawdowns. But now you understand something your younger self never did. Temporary setbacks do not erase permanent growth. As long as your process remains strong, your confidence remains intact. The journey toward consistent profitability isn't about becoming fearless. It's about becoming trustworthy. Trustworthy to yourself. Trustworthy enough to follow your own plan. Trustworthy enough to remain patient. Trustworthy enough to make the same disciplined decision regardless of whether your last trade won or lost. Once you become that person, consistent profitability stops feeling like a distant dream and starts becoming the natural outcome of who you've become. And that's why the final step isn't another strategy, another indicator, or another course. It's one simple habit that begins the moment you finish watching this video. A habit so small that most people ignore it, yet so powerful that it has quietly transformed some of the most consistently profitable traders in the world. Final action step 1 habit to start tonight that can change your trading forever. Before you open another chart, before you place another trade, before you spend another dollar on a new strategy, I want you to do one simple thing tonight. Just one. It won't take hours. It doesn't require expensive software. It doesn't require years of experience. But if you commit to it every single day, it has the power to change your trading journey forever. Buy a notebook or open a blank document on your computer. At the top of the page, write today's date. Then answer one question with complete honesty. What kind of trader was I today? Not how much money did you make? Not whether you had a green day or a red day. Ask yourself who you were while you were trading. Were you patient? Were you disciplined? Did you follow your rules? Did fear make your decisions? Did greed convince you to stay in a trade too long? Did your ego refuse to accept a small loss? Did boredom push you into a trade that never met your plan? Be brutally honest, because the market already knows the truth. The only person you're trying to convince is yourself. Let me tell you something. Every consistently profitable trader has a way of creating awareness. Some use journals. Some record videos. Some review screenshots. The method doesn't matter nearly as much as the habit. Awareness is the beginning of change. You cannot improve behavior you refuse to observe. You cannot eliminate emotional mistakes you never acknowledge. Every night, write down your biggest mistake and your best decision. Not your biggest winner. Your best decision will be closing your laptop instead of forcing a trade. Sometimes your best decision will be respecting your stop loss even though it hurts. Sometimes your best decision will be skipping a setup that didn't meet your criteria. Those are victories too. In fact, those are the victories that create long-term success. Understand this. Your account balance is a lagging indicator. Your habits are a leading indicator. Your account reflects what you've been doing for weeks and months. Your habits determine what your account will look like weeks and months from now. Most traders stare at the lagging indicator and ignore the leading one. They obsess over profits while neglecting the behaviors that produce them. Don't make that mistake. Build the habits first. The results will eventually follow. Back to everything you've learned in this journey. Stage 1 taught you that excitement can become overconfidence. Stage 2 exposed the painful reality that the market reflects your weaknesses. Stage 3 showed you that there is no perfect strategy waiting to save you. Stage 4 forced you to look inward instead of outward. Stage 5 taught you the value of rules. Stage 6 transformed discipline into habit. Stage 7 revealed that consistent profitability is simply the visible result of an invisible transformation. Every stage had one thing in common: you. Not the charts, not the indicators, not the market. You. This entire journey has always been about the person placing the trade. Because here's the truth most people never hear. The market is not your enemy. It never was. The market doesn't wake up trying to take your money. It simply responds to your decisions. If your decisions improve, your relationship with the market improves. If your discipline improves, your results have a chance to improve. The market doesn't reward hope. It rewards preparation. It doesn't reward confidence alone. It rewards consistency. It doesn't reward prediction. It rewards execution. That's why the greatest investment you'll ever make isn't in another indicator or another course. It's in becoming someone who can consistently execute under pressure. Someone who remains calm when others panic. Someone who follows the plan when emotions demand otherwise. Someone who protects capital before chasing profits. That person will always have an advantage because the greatest edge in trading has never been hidden inside a chart. It's hidden inside your daily habits. So tonight, start that journal. Write one honest page. Tomorrow, write another, then another. Don't focus on becoming the perfect trader. Focus on becoming 1% better than you were yesterday. One better decision. One emotional mistake avoided. One rule followed without compromise. Those tiny improvements may seem insignificant today, but over time, they become impossible to ignore. One day you'll look back and realize the biggest turning point in your trading career wasn't the strategy you discovered or the trade that made you the most money. It was the night you finally stopped trying to change the market and started changing yourself. If this video helped you see trading from a different perspective, remember this. One sentence every time you sit down in front of the charts. The market doesn't create the trader you become. It reveals the trader you've chosen to be. Choose discipline. Choose patience. Choose consistency. And over time, the profits will stop being something you chase and start becoming something you deserve.